Rimuru, the hero copycat by RimuruEdward6. Izuku Pav. Rimuru's voice carried over the broadcast again, calm and composed even as she dodged another one of All for One's devastating attacks. Let me tell you a story, she began, her tone almost playful despite the tension of the battle. While I'm over here fighting big bad evil monsters, I want you all to know something. When I was 8, I walked by a family who thought they were all quirkless. But I saw something different. Her words immediately drew everyone's attention, the room falling into a hushed silence. From the moment I saw them, she continued, I started using their quirks. They had no idea they even had them. One of them had a quirk that made it so they never got ill, an immunity to sickness. Another had an unending energy reserve, something they didn't even realize they were benefiting from. Gasps rippled through the auditorium, and I felt my heart pounding as I listened. Then there was the one with a quirk to organize thoughts, Rimuru said, her voice steady, and another who could remember anything they learned with perfect accuracy. One of them even had a quirk to mimic movements flawlessly, things they never noticed because they took them for granted. The revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. These weren't flashy, powerful quirks like the ones we saw heroes using every day. These were subtle, quiet abilities that could change lives without anyone realizing. She's serious, Uraraka murmured beside me, her voice filled with awe. All those quirks, and no one even knew they had them. Rimuru's voice softened slightly as she continued. The world only notices quirks that make noise, the flashy ones, the destructive ones. But there are so many others out there. Underrated, unknown quirks with abilities that are just as impressive, in their own way. The ones that don't show themselves but make life better in quiet, incredible ways. I clenched my fists, her words striking a chord deep within me. And that's why I fight, she said, her voice firm. Because no one is truly powerless. Not those people, not you, not anyone. All you need is someone to see you for who you really are. The auditorium was silent, the weight of her words pressing down on everyone. She's showing us, I whispered, my voice trembling. She's showing the world that everyone matters. She's proving it, Yaoyorozu added, her tone thoughtful. Every quirk has value, even if it's not obvious at first. She's incredible, Kaminari said, shaking his head in disbelief. She's not just fighting All for One, she's changing how people see themselves. On the screen, Rimuru smirked, her golden eyes blazing as she launched a devastating counterattack. So, if you think you're powerless, she said, her voice cutting through the noise, think again. Because the world is full of heroes, whether they realize it or not. I felt tears sting my eyes, overwhelmed by the truth of her words. Rimuru wasn't just fighting for the future, she was fighting for everyone who had ever been told they weren't enough. And as I watched her stand tall against All for One, I knew she was right. We were all heroes in our own way. Rimuru's voice rang out over the broadcast once more, steady and resolute despite the intensity of the battle. If this is all over, she began, her golden eyes locked onto All for One as she dodged another devastating attack, and you're still not sure what you're capable of, you can always call for my help. Her words carried a weight that silenced the entire auditorium. My classmates, my teachers, everyone leaned in, hanging on her every word. Because I have the ability to know what you've been denied your whole life, she continued, her tone firm but filled with something warmer, almost comforting. And that ends today. I felt my chest tighten, her words hitting me like a bolt of lightning. She wasn't just speaking to the audience watching from the safety of their homes. She was speaking to everyone who had ever felt powerless, to everyone who had ever been told they weren't enough. She's talking to all of us, Uraraka whispered beside me, her voice trembling. To everyone who's ever doubted themselves. She's making it impossible to ignore, Iida added, his tone reverent. She's not just a hero. She's a symbol. On the screen, Rimuru pressed her attack, her movements fluid and precise. Her voice softened but still carried that unshakable conviction. You've been told your whole life that you're powerless, that you're quirkless, that you're less, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. But that ends here. That ends today. I clenched my fists, her words stirring something deep inside me. For so long, I had believed I was nothing, just a quirkless kid in a world of heroes. And yet, here was Rimuru, standing tall, using my quirk to prove that I was so much more than I ever thought possible. She's fighting for everyone who's ever been told they can't, Jiro said quietly, her gaze fixed on the screen. She's proving that we all have worth, Yaoyorozu added, her voice filled with awe. I swallowed hard, tears threatening to spill as I watched her. Rimuru wasn't just fighting all for one. She was fighting for a world where no one had to feel the way I had, where no one had to feel less than. She's incredible, I whispered, my voice shaking. On the screen, Rimuru turned her gaze toward the camera for a split second, her golden eyes blazing with determination. So, if you ever doubt yourself, she said, her voice carrying a quiet power, remember this moment. Remember that you are never truly powerless. And if you need help finding that strength, call me. Because you are worth it. The room fell silent, her words lingering in the air like a promise. And as I sat there, surrounded by the awe and respect of my classmates, I knew one thing for certain. Rimuru wasn't just giving us hope. She was giving us a future. Hawks Pav. Rimuru's voice carried through the broadcast, calm and unwavering despite the chaos of her fight with All for One. If this is all over, and you're not sure what you're capable of, you can always call for my help. Because I have the ability to know what you have been denied your whole life, and that ends today. I stood frozen, the weight of her words hitting me like a tidal wave. Around me, the perimeter teams monitoring the broadcast exchanged looks, their usual focus momentarily broken. Did she just say she can help people realize their hidden potential? One of the heroes murmured, their voice filled with awe. Yeah, another replied. And she's doing it right now, isn't she? I clenched my fists, my eyes locked on the screen. Rimuru had always been extraordinary, but this was something else entirely. She wasn't just fighting all for one, she was fighting for everyone who had ever felt powerless, lost, or overlooked. She's turning this fight into something bigger than herself, I muttered, my wings twitching with restless energy. She's making it about everyone. Her voice softened, but her determination was unmistakable. You've been told your whole life that you're powerless, that you're less, that you don't belong. But that ends here. That ends today. I exhaled sharply, feeling a swell of pride and something deeper, an ache in my chest that came with understanding just how much she had carried on her shoulders to get to this moment. She's dismantling the lie, I said quietly, more to myself than anyone else. The lie that people without flashy quirks are worthless. Another hero nearby spoke up, their voice tinged with disbelief. How is she doing this? How is she fighting him and inspiring everyone watching at the same time? I shook my head, my gaze still fixed on the screen. Because that's who Rimuru is, I said, my voice steady. She's not just a fighter. She's a force of nature. As the fight raged on, her words seemed to hang in the air, each one striking like a hammer against the foundations of fear and doubt that All for One had spent a lifetime building. You are never truly powerless, she said, her voice resonating with unshakable conviction. And if you need help finding that strength, call me. Because you are worth it. I let out a slow breath, my chest tightening with pride. Rimuru wasn't just showing the world her strength, she was giving it to them. She was proving that heroes weren't defined by their quirks or their titles, but by their ability to inspire others to believe in themselves. She's going to change everything, I said quietly, a faint smile tugging at my lips. And as I turned back to the perimeter, ensuring nothing interrupted this monumental moment, I couldn't help but think. Rimuru wasn't just fighting for today. She was building a legacy for tomorrow. The moment the comms lit up with the message, I knew it was going to be a long day. This is HQ, the voice crackled in my earpiece, a mix of awe and panic evident in their tone. We're being flooded with requests, millions of them, for meetings with Copycat. I nearly choked on the water I'd been sipping. Millions. I repeated, my wings twitching as I processed the sheer number. Millions, the operator confirmed, their voice growing more frantic. Civilians, heroes, companies, everyone wants to talk to her. Some are asking for help with quirks, others just want advice or inspiration. We've never seen anything like this before. I rubbed the back of my neck, glancing toward the screen where Rimuru was still battling All for One. Her words were powerful, enough to inspire countless people across the world to believe in themselves. But this level of response, even I hadn't anticipated it. What do we do, Hawks? Another voice chimed in over the line. We can't handle this kind of volume. People are demanding answers, and we don't even know how to respond. I sighed, shaking my head. First, we need to control the narrative. Issue a statement thanking everyone for their enthusiasm and support, but make it clear that Rimuru, copycat, is focused on her mission right now. No distractions. Understood, HQ replied, their tone steadying slightly. I paused, running through the possibilities in my mind. Rimuru wasn't going to be thrilled about this, she hated unnecessary attention. But at the same time, this was an opportunity, a chance to amplify the message she'd been fighting to spread. After that, I continued, we'll need to filter the requests. Prioritize the ones that align with her goals, helping people understand their quirks, spreading hope, that sort of thing. The rest, we'll have to find a way to address them without overwhelming her. You think she'll go for it? Someone asked hesitantly. I smirked, my gaze flicking back to the screen. Rimuru doesn't like being in the spotlight, but she's not the type to ignore people who genuinely need help. She'll do what she can, on her terms. The line went quiet for a moment before another voice spoke up. And if she refuses? What then? Then we respect her choice, I said firmly. She's already doing more than anyone else ever could. The world needs to understand that. I adjusted my earpiece, my expression softening slightly. For now, let her finish this fight. We'll deal with the rest after she's had a chance to breathe. Because if there was one thing I knew for certain, it was that Rimuru deserved at least that much. All for one POV. Her voice returned, slipping into my mind like a dagger, calm yet triumphant. Well, father, she began, her tone carrying the weight of her victory, now my plan is complete. I gritted my teeth, her words cutting through the chaos of our battle like a blade. I am the most loved person in the world, she continued, her golden eyes blazing with confidence as she countered my latest attack. The daughter of the worst villain is now the most loved of them all. I growled, frustration simmering beneath my calm exterior. You think this changes anything? I spat, my voice low and venomous. You think your popularity will protect you from the truth? She smirked, a flicker of amusement crossing her face. The truth, father. She echoed, her tone laced with mockery. The truth is that your time is over. The world has already chosen its side, and it's not yours. I launched another barrage of attacks, my frustration boiling over, but she dodged with ease, her movements fluid and precise. I will never be what you want me to be, she said, her voice steady and firm. I am my own person, and you can't change that. Not anymore. Her defiance was maddening, her conviction unshakable. For years, I had molded her, shaped her, prepared her for a future where she would carry on my legacy. And yet, here she was, standing against me, dismantling everything I had built. You are still my creation, I snarled, my voice sharp. Everything you are, everything you've accomplished, it all began with me. She didn't flinch, her golden eyes locking onto mine. And that's where it ends, she replied, her tone colder now. You gave me life, father, but you don't own it. I've taken everything you taught me and turned it into something you can't control. Her voice slipped into my mind again, quieter but no less cutting. I've won, father. Not just this battle, but the war. Because no matter what happens now, the world sees me for who I am. Not your daughter, not your creation, but my own person. And you can't take that away from me. I clenched my fists, her words slicing through my composure like a blade. She had outmaneuvered me, not just in battle, but in every way that mattered. And for the first time, I felt the weight of true defeat pressing down on me. Because she was right. I couldn't change her. Not anymore. Hawk's POV. I wasn't sure if I was hearing her right at first. The chaos of the fight, the relentless battle against all for one, it all seemed to fade as Rimuru's voice echoed across the broadcast, carrying a rare softness I hadn't heard before. I want to take a moment, she began, her tone calm yet filled with emotion, to thank a special friend, colleague, and hero of mine. I froze, my wings twitching as I hung on her every word. Thank you, Hawks, she continued, her golden eyes glinting with sincerity even as she dodged another of All for One's brutal attacks. For saving me from All for One when I was 6, and for making today possible. Because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be facing him right now. The world around me seemed to fall silent, her words sinking in with a weight I hadn't expected. She's thanking you. One of the heroes near me murmured, their voice filled with surprise. I didn't respond immediately, my chest tightening as her voice carried on. You gave me a life worth fighting for, she said, her movements graceful and deliberate as she countered All for One's attacks. You gave me hope when I thought there was none. And because of that, I'm here today, standing tall, fighting for a better world. I felt a lump form in my throat, her words hitting me harder than I cared to admit. I'll see you after all this, she added, a faint smile tugging at her lips despite the intensity of the battle. Your place really is the best place to be. I let out a slow breath, the edges of my mouth twitching into a small smile. Rimuru, I murmured under my breath, my voice barely audible. She didn't have to say any of that. She didn't owe me anything. But hearing her acknowledge what I'd done for her, it meant more than I could put into words. Looks like she's got a soft spot for you, Hawks, one of the heroes nearby said, nudging me playfully. Yeah, I replied quietly, my gaze still fixed on the screen. But don't go thinking that makes her any less fierce. Rimuru was doing something extraordinary out there, not just in the fight, but in everything she stood for. And knowing that I had played even a small part in getting her here, it made every risk, every sacrifice, worth it. I straightened, my wings spreading slightly as I turned back toward the perimeter. Let's make sure she has a home to come back to, I said firmly. Because no matter what happened out there, I'd be waiting for her when it was all over. All for one POV. The battlefield was chaos incarnate. Energy crackled, the air itself trembled, and the golden-eyed girl who had been my creation, my legacy, stood defiantly against me. Rimuru. This fight was supposed to be mine. The culmination of decades of preparation, of building an empire that no one could rival. Yet here I was, pushed to my limits not by the might of some grand hero but by my own daughter. How poetic. How infuriating. She had turned my own philosophy against me, weaponized everything I had taught her to dismantle the very foundation of my power. She didn't just fight me with strength, she fought me with ideals. And worse, she was winning. I replayed her words in my mind, each one cutting deeper than the last. The daughter of the worst villain is now the most loved of them all. That sentence alone felt like a blade twisted in my chest. She had outmaneuvered me, not just on the battlefield but in the hearts and minds of everyone watching. The same world that once feared me now adored her, the very symbol of defiance against everything I had built. I will never be what you want me to be. I am my own person. Her defiance had been clear from the beginning, but now it was undeniable. She had not only rejected me but had turned her back on the very idea of power as I defined it. And yet, despite her rebellion, I couldn't bring myself to hate her. Because she was everything I had ever wanted her to be, powerful, intelligent, charismatic. The perfect successor. Only, she had taken those qualities and shaped them into something I could no longer control. Her words to Hawks echoed in my mind, filling me with a bitter mixture of pride and anger. Thank you, Hawks, for saving me from all for one when I was 6. So that's where I had lost her. That moment, all those years ago, when a single hero had pulled her from my grasp. Hawks had sown the seeds of rebellion, and now I was reaping the consequences. I clenched my fists, my frustration boiling beneath my calm exterior. She had turned this battle into more than a fight. It was a performance, a spectacle designed to dismantle not just me, but everything I represented. Every move she made, every word she spoke, was calculated to inspire hope and defiance in the hearts of those watching. And it was working. Even now, as I countered her attacks, I could feel the shift in the air. The world was no longer mine to control. Rimuru, I murmured under my breath, my voice barely audible. For all my power, for all my planning, I had been undone by her. My daughter. My greatest creation. And as much as I hated to admit it, part of me felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Pride. She had beaten me at my own game, and the world would remember her, not as my daughter, not as my creation, but as the one who brought hope to the future. The battle wasn't over yet, but the outcome was clear. I had lost. And she had won. Izuku Pav. The moment Rimuru's voice echoed across the broadcast, the entire auditorium seemed to hold its breath. So, I guess now that I have reached you all, I will end this fight right here with this last move. Her words carried a finality that sent shivers down my spine. The screen showed her standing tall, her golden eyes glowing with an unshakable resolve as she faced All for One. Then he froze. All for One, the most dangerous villain in history, couldn't move. It was as though Rimuru had locked him in place with nothing but her will. What's happening? Someone whispered, their voice trembling. She stopped him, another murmured. I leaned forward, my heart pounding as Rimuru continued to speak. Right here, right now, I will make sure that nobody will ever feel quirkless again. My breath caught, her words hitting me like a lightning bolt. She's going to take his quirk, I whispered, the realization dawning on me. She's going to end it. Say goodbye to your quirk for good. The screen showed All for One's face, if you could call it that, twisting in desperation and fury as he struggled against her. His roars of protest echoed across the battlefield, but Rimuru didn't waver. Around me, my classmates were silent, their eyes glued to the screen. She's not just defeating him, Yaoyorozu said softly, her tone filled with awe. She's taking away everything that made him dangerous. She's doing it for everyone, Uraraka added, her voice trembling with emotion. For people like us, for people like you, Izuku. I swallowed hard, my chest tightening as I watched Rimuru's golden eyes pierce through All for One's defiance. The camera zoomed in on her as she raised her hand, the air around her crackling with power. For a brief moment, everything seemed to go still. And then it happened. All for One collapsed, his body crumpling like a puppet with its strings cut. The screen showed his stunned expression as he looked at his hands, realization dawning in his eyes. He was powerless. Rimuru's voice rang out again, clear and steady. This is for everyone who has ever felt powerless. For everyone who has ever been told they're nothing. That ends today. The room around me erupted into cheers, my classmates jumping to their feet, their voices filled with awe and joy. She did it. Kaminari shouted, his fists in the air. She actually did it. She ended it, Juro said, shaking her head in disbelief. She took him down. But I couldn't move. I sat frozen in my seat, tears streaming down my face as her words echoed in my mind. Rimuru wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for everyone, everyone who had ever felt powerless, everyone who had ever been told they weren't enough. She was fighting for me. She's incredible, I whispered, my voice trembling. And as the broadcast showed her standing tall, victorious, I knew one thing for certain. Rimuru had changed the world. Hawks Pav. I stood at the edge of the perimeter, watching the broadcast on a nearby monitor. The battlefield had been chaos, a storm of power and destruction, but now it was still. Too still. Rimuru's voice echoed through the speakers, steady and deliberate. So, I guess now that I have reached you all, I will end this fight right here with this last move. My breath hitched as I saw All for One freeze in place, his entire body locked as if the weight of the world had pinned him down. What's happening? One of the heroes near me asked, their voice barely above a whisper. I shook my head, unable to tear my eyes from the screen. She's ending it, I said quietly. This is it. Then Rimuru spoke again, her words cutting through the silence like a blade. Right here, right now, I will make sure that nobody will ever get to feel quirkless again. Say goodbye to your quirk for good. The weight of her words sent a chill down my spine. I knew she was capable of extraordinary things, but this. She wasn't just defeating All for One. She was erasing the very foundation of his power. She's taking his quirk, I muttered, my voice filled with a mix of awe and disbelief. On the screen, All for One's defiance crumbled. His roars of protest faded into silence as the realization dawned on him. His quirk, the source of his reign, was gone. Rimuru stood tall, her golden eyes blazing with triumph as she spoke to the world. This is for everyone who has ever felt powerless. For everyone who has ever been told they're nothing. That ends today. The other heroes around me erupted into cheers, their voices filled with relief and joy. She did it. Someone shouted, their voice trembling with emotion. She actually did it. I let out a slow breath, the weight of the moment settling on my shoulders. Rimuru had done the impossible. She hadn't just defeated All for One, she had dismantled everything he stood for. But as the celebrations continued, my focus stayed on the screen, where Rimuru stood motionless. Her shoulders were squared, her expression calm, but I knew her better than that. This victory hadn't come without a cost. She's incredible, I murmured, a faint smile tugging at my lips. But she's carrying more than anyone realizes. Turning to the nearest hero, I gestured toward the monitors. Make sure the area is clear and secured. No interruptions, no interference. This moment belongs to her. They nodded, hurrying to carry out the orders, but my mind was elsewhere. Because no matter how much she had won, I knew Rimuru would need someone to remind her that she didn't have to carry this alone. As the screen showed her standing tall, victorious, I whispered to myself, I'll be there for you, Rimuru. No matter what. The cheers and celebrations were still ringing out around me when her voice came through my earpiece, quiet but urgent. Hawks, stop the video of the battlefield. I froze, my wings twitching as I processed her words. There was a tension in her tone I hadn't heard before. It won't be long before I collapse right on the spot, she continued, her voice steadier now but no less serious. And I can't let people see that. Hurry. My chest tightened, my hand instinctively reaching for the comms control. Rimuru, I said softly, my voice barely audible, you don't have to do this alone. I know, she replied, her voice softer now, almost tired. But the world needs to see strength right now, not exhaustion. Please, Hawks. Just do this for me. Her words hung heavy in the air, and I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. All right, I said finally, forcing my voice to stay steady. I'll take care of it. Turning to the tech team, I barked out the order. Cut the live feed from the battlefield now. One of the technicians hesitated. But the public. Do it. I snapped, my wings flaring slightly. Now. They scrambled to comply, the screen cutting to a prepared victory message almost immediately. Around me, the murmurs of confusion grew, but I ignored them, my focus entirely on Rimuru. Rimuru, I said into the earpiece, my voice softening again, I've got you. Just hold on. Thanks, Hawks, she murmured, her voice filled with gratitude and weariness. You always have my back. The line went quiet after that, and I felt my chest tighten even more. She had given everything for this victory, her strength, her resolve, her very being. And now, as the world celebrated, she was falling apart behind the scenes. I clenched my fists, determination surging through me. I'm coming to you, I muttered under my breath. Because if Rimuru thought she was going to face this alone, she had another thing coming. I had barely finished ordering the broadcast cut when the feed in my earpiece went silent. My heart dropped. Rimuru. I called softly, hoping for a response. Rimuru, answer me. There was nothing but static, and then, chaos. Sir. A hero monitoring the battlefield shouted from across the room. We're still getting a private feed from the field. Rimuru, she's down. My chest tightened as I rushed to the monitor. The live feed from our internal system still showed the battlefield, and there she was, lying motionless on the ground. Damn it. I hissed under my breath. She knew this was coming. Around me, the other heroes scrambled, their voices overlapping in confusion and panic. She collapsed. Is she okay? What do we do? Get me a team on the ground now. I barked, my wings spreading as I prepared to take flight. One of the techs turned to me, their face pale. Hawks, the world might not have seen it, but the heroes stationed nearby did. We need to contain this before rumors start spreading. I clenched my fists, my eyes glued to the screen. Rimuru's chest rose and fell slowly, she was alive, but barely. The toll of the fight was clear now. She's given everything, I murmured to myself. Turning to the team, I issued rapid orders. Secure the area. No leaks, no unnecessary personnel. I'll go to her myself. Make sure no one gets close without my clearance. Yes, sir. Without another word, I took off, my wings slicing through the air as I headed straight for the battlefield. When I arrived, the sight of her hit me like a punch to the gut. Rimuru lay on the ground, her silver hair sprawled around her, her golden eyes closed. She looked so small, so vulnerable, in a way I had never seen before. I landed beside her, kneeling down and placing a hand gently on her shoulder. Rimuru, I said softly, my voice trembling. I'm here. She didn't respond, her breathing shallow but steady. My jaw tightened as I scooped her up in my arms, cradling her carefully. You're not doing this alone, I whispered, my voice firm despite the lump in my throat. Not now, not ever. Turning to the heroes who had gathered nearby, I barked out, get the medics ready. We're taking her to a safe house, away from the public eye. No one sees her like this. They nodded, quickly clearing the path as I took off, holding Rimuru close. As we soared through the sky, I glanced down at her peaceful face, my heart aching. You saved the world today, I murmured. Now it's my turn to save you.